What's up, Lucky Top fans, Tennessee fans? We're back in the Elite Eight, back-to-back years. Um, we pretty handily destroyed Kentucky, and we're right where we should be. We're going to be talking about the game last night versus Kentucky. We're going to be looking forward to Houston. Talk about a little bit of college basketball stuff in general, and repick who's going to win it all. Now that we have eight left, I think it would be a good time to kind of throw out that discussion as well. If we could do it over again, would we pick Tennessee again, or based on what we've seen so far in the tournament, are we going with someone else? But let's dive right back into the fun stuff. Andy, what are your thoughts on last night's game? I think you went somewhere to watch it.
Yeah, that's right. I went to the bar, where the alumni and fans gather in New York City, Printer's Alley, named after a street in Nashville, the usual go-to spot, and made sure that the smoky mascot, inflated mascot, was not getting touched, nor unplugged or deflated. So here we are.
Nice, man. I think one of the big things that stood out to me yesterday was the defense that we are playing. Kentucky shot decent enough from the 3 point line. That just wasn't getting as many attempts at that. And the big thing is our rebounding stepped up. Is there anything else that you watched from the game that you were impressed with?
Definitely the rebounding and the second chance points. Definitely. What moved the needle really. We had some turnovers and similar fouls and whatnot, but at the and a lot of ball sharing. But at the end of the day, it really came down to second chance points. Any timely just miss of the rim, immediate putback type of, just really nice to watch, especially, after losing to Kentucky twice this year already. They do say it's hard to beat a same team, twice or three times, whatever. And I do think there's some validity to it because, you have more game film, you have more sort of data points to look at. You're also, removing variances, right? At the end of the day, Tennessee was favored in all three times, and really sometimes, with how basketball has evolved nowadays, and then heavy sort of focus on 3 point shooting. Sometimes when you're cold, and as a Tennessee fans, we're very used to it that when we go cold from the three. And the other team, gets nuclear from the three. Famously in tournament settings, we've seen some heartbreaking losses when we were favored because of that. Oregon State, Loyola, FAU, and so on. So I do think, again, it was a good game overall. I mean, can't really complain about anyone. Like I can't think of anyone that I would just point out and say, oh, this guy sucked. Just all around performance from Ziegler, Gainey, Meshack. I mean, I guess Lanier could have shot a little bit better, but at the end of the day, he still had a you know very efficient like day in terms of like timeliness. Whenever they start to go on a run, he just like pull out some mid range DeRozan Kobe shit to silence the arena. So
Yeah, I didn't feel like we really lost momentum at any time.
yeah.
I think that's really important for us because we don't have consistent scoring. So if we keep a team within a range, consistently defensively suppressed, then we can really get some leads going and leads kept, right? I think that's important for us. Like, we're not the team that's going to dig back down 15 points. We're the
Right,
team
right.
that can win. And thanks to our defense, we do get there a decent amount of time. I'm not the biggest Rick Barnes guy, but he shut me up last night. He did a really good job. I thought most of the decision making was correct, and yeah, looking forward to our next game. Like, I think that honestly, I was more concerned with Kentucky than I am with Houston, if that makes sense.
Same.
Like, Houston is like playing ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, very very similar profile. Defensive grindhouse, slugfest.
Yeah, like they score 60 points, they score 60, 65 points and win. That's kind of our MO too. So I wanted to get into that game. Um, Obviously, Houston scored on that pretty nice buzzer beater versus Purdue yesterday. So that's who we'll face tomorrow. Um, Anything you see in terms of what you're afraid of or what you think about Houston?
Yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty nicely. I think Houston is the type of game where we know what to expect, and we're not gonna have like the variance affect us very much. Arguably, I would say, playing someone like Purdue annoys me more because of their play style, their guard play, and the 3 point. The ability to just like knock down just out of nowhere, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, um, just kind of like Purdue has those players that can get hot from three, and like you said, we're not the type that can answer that type of a run, just not built for that. So yeah, I mean, I think Houston, very very similar profile, like in the defensive and offensive metrics, very similar. Top three defense, both teams, like top 15-ish offense. So, I think it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens here. I will be honest. I did feel like it would be nice to kind of have that lineup of Kentucky, Purdue, Bama, Florida on the way to the title. I feel like those are like the rivals. Obviously the SEC rivals plus Purdue, which we ran into, quite a few times. Both
Mm-hmm.
that
They have our
one.
number.
Yeah. So, like Carson Edwards, Fao Ming, list goes on. So, but I am like glad that we're not playing them because just the way they play, it would be like playing against James Harden. You're just gonna get frustrated. This guy just starts getting nuclear, and then he drives and he gets all the foul calls. Bullshit free throws would be in the bonus 5 minutes into the game. So, Houston, I feel really good about it. I think again, like if we can get to the same type of rebounding, I think that's gonna be the key. Just boxing out their bigs from getting there. Ultimately, I think Uzan, I think and what's his name, Jawan Roberts. I think he's someone to sort of be aware of. A senior. A lot of like big game experiences, so to speak, right? So I think that's. But again, like Tennessee also has seniors in Ziegler and Meshack, so I think it's gonna be exciting game to watch. And just nice to get that monkey off the back for Rick Barnes also, like you said. Now I feel like he has. I mean, getting to Final Four at Tennessee, maybe that you can say that's a pressure, arguably. But at the same time, back to back Elite Eight, at least like he's like silenced the critics, and I think that's a huge lift off of both the team and him. It's like a house playing with the house money. Like no one would have thought that they would be gunning for a spot in the Final Four after losing arguably their best player in the last like 50 years.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about Houston's last game versus BYU. They really kind of dominated that. Specific performances by LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp and Uzan that you were discussing before. They have pretty good guard play, and that's I feel like why we're here at this point. So does Tennessee, but I think honestly, key player for us will be Gainey and Lanier. We kind of know what we're gonna get from Zakai Ziegler, and it's really up to those two to kind of help out on defensively against Sharp and Cryer and Uzan. So they got three guards that can score, and pretty much they combined for 60 out of 74 points. Those three guys. So what is that? That's like,
The
85.
anti-Florida, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So it's if you can keep those guys under control, I believe that you can have a good time in there. We I think you touched upon rebounding as well. Like, we need to be in 40s in rebounding. 40 rebounds or so will get us done. If we can keep Houston to 60 or under, I think we can win. And yeah, like, shooting, you can't really control for. So I'm not going to sit up here and say, like, oh, okay, we need to shoot the three well, because that's like, how do you control that? But I think what I would say is keep momentum on your side. Try to have a good ability to bounce back when you get in a hole, and don't let the hole get too big. So that would be my thoughts on Houston. I wanted to cover a topic that we're kind of seeing on sports media a lot now, which is, is Cinderella dead? Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the top 10 of KenPom being in the Elite Eight. There's no FDU screaming on the, running on the court. There's no St. Peter's. There's no kind of like traditional Cinderella stories that we're seeing this tournament. Some people are saying that, that's kind of a detriment to the product that we're seeing. But for me, honestly, it's better basketball now. I feel like most of the games are pretty close, and these guys look like they're very competent. And what I don't like to see is what we saw from, I think, St. Peter's 2 or 3 years ago, when you finally get up to Elite Eight or Final Four, and you end up losing to UNC by 20 or something like that. So that's something that I think is evident this year. Less Cinderella's kind of making it out of the first weekend. Good thing or bad thing? What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting season because it's the first season after realignment also, right? So there's a lot of like frequent travels for especially like the teams on West Coast coming to, flying east to play away games and things like that. We talked about it during football season, that being like a crazy, like basketball, you play like 30 something games and more travels. I think that's like a one thing that kind of led to like a very like, in a way, like no one knew how to like evaluate a lot of these teams. So I think they're it's statistically like a very interesting season. But then when you look at it at the end of the day, you see all of these like top 8 out of 9 teams in the Elite Eight, and as you mentioned, like no Cinderellas really, and where is that coming from? And then you kind of think about what the transfer portal has done, right? So the guys who were crushing in the mid majors are at these big time schools now, like guy from Tulane, on Duke, guy from what would be like another good example?
Chaz Lanier.
Yeah, Chaz Lanier, right? And even like Kentucky, right? Like Kobe Brea from Dayton. And those are the teams that are sort of in the typical like Cinderella story bucket, right? And teams used to hate being, dreading that like 7 versus 10 or 5 versus 12 type of matchups. But I think that kind of like softened it a little bit this year because of, the transfer portal sort of consolidating the talents. And I'm with you. I think Cinderella story is like nice. And ultimately, I think these like smaller schools will find their niche, just like how, in soccer, you have the Real Madrids of the world, but, you still have teams that are able to kind of like hold their own in their own ways without needing capital or needing that draft product. So, I think quality of basketball have definitely gone up. Like we all know that we love watching March Madness and college ball, but it is like an inferior product if you think about the quality of players, right? Like in the NBA, an average NBA player would destroy anyone in college really, and so like sometimes the low scoring is really because the players aren't talented enough to create their own shots and consistently score on a night in night out basis. So again, like I think it brought up the quality of the product by consolidating the talent, good or bad. At least like maybe for the future of college sports, that's hard to like make a prediction for. But I think as far as a product, like like you said, there isn't like a blowout games. Like you saw Auburn game yesterday. Auburn, Michigan. And Ole Miss, Michigan State. Like all these games, I feel like have been very, very, very competitive. Only minus the Tennessee Kentucky one, right? So made it a very interesting March for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think that one point that I wanted to add is why were Cinderellas threatening before is because they had multiple years playing together, and they typically had a lot of senior and junior talent on the team playing versus a lot younger competition with the Power Five. I don't think we're going to see that anymore. I think with the combination of transfer and NIL, why not be a stud big man on campus for another couple years if you're not going to be Cooper Flag, etc.
Right.
It's a decent way to continue a pretty good quality of life for yourself. So number one is what you're talking about. Transfer portals open. Number two is, you can make $500,000 plus, maybe even low millions of dollars each year by being on a Power Five school, which would never happen in a Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make a bigger impact with a Power Five now than you could with a Cinderella. So I think that's something to look out for. I don't think it will necessarily. It might take some of the magic away of, oh my God, can you believe this team beat this other team for the average fan? But I think it makes Sweet 16 and beyond better. So if you're really trying to watch like the Sweet 16 and beyond, I would say if you're a second weekend beyond person, or if you're just a first weekend person, you might feel one type of way versus the other. So just considering that. All right. So last topic I wanted to get to is repicking who's going to win it all. We famously picked Tennessee last show, Josh and I. We picked them to win it all. Anything else you see, any other team, let's put it this way, who could win it all that you've seen? Anybody that you believe that has been playing really well, surprised you, etc.?
So I unfortunately couldn't join the last session. Mm-hmm. I had Michigan State over Auburn, Florida over Texas Tech, Houston and Tennessee, and Tennessee over Houston, and then Bama over Duke. So I guess where my sort of non-chalk picks is obviously Tennessee for the homerism, but also Michigan State over Auburn, and arguably Alabama over Duke. I think Alabama's been playing really well. Same for Michigan State. Michigan State's just been kind of like, showing, the coaching experience and the resiliency. They've been, they've had some close games, like, against Ole Miss, almost trailing the entire game. And Florida too. I mean, Florida had a close call against UConn, but they were able to grind it out, and then pretty much steamrolled Maryland. So I had I've only filled out one bracket, and I had Tennessee over Michigan State, and I don't think I'm gonna change anything based on what we've seen so far. As we talked about it at the beginning of the show, I had felt like Kentucky was a little bit more nerve-wracking opponent than Houston. Not to get arrogant or anything, just the play style, the matchup wise. So no, I don't think so. One, I guess, team that is playing better than my expectation is Duke. Although, most people did expect Duke to advance pretty far. I thought Arizona would give Duke a run for their money, and I had Alabama over Arizona in that region. So, but I can't say that I'm surprised by Duke doing well. That was just me picking sort of a team that is in everyone's like championship game, eliminating them away early, so that way to differentiate the bracket, right? So
yeah, Alabama looks way better than we thought. At least I thought. They look like kind of like a last year's team or things of that sort. Seems like they're getting together at the right time. I'll put Michigan State, Houston, and Texas Tech, but more Michigan State and Houston in teams that can win versus anybody. Teams can lose to anybody in this list.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I think that Michigan State and Houston are just going to be 61-60 type games no matter what.
Yep.
There's not going to be blowouts. Michigan State, I think, really more than the others is, they just kind of will themselves to victory. Like, doesn't really matter how much they're down or how much, how big the other team is in terms of size or, what Vegas says about them. But I think that they perform really well. They're probably the best coach team out of the field that's left. Florida, Duke, Alabama right now, I feel like they're at the top of the Elite Eight, and we're kind of in the middle with Auburn. So that's how it rank the rest of the teams remaining. But the good thing is, like, we don't really have to play. We just have to play the team in front of us, right, Andy?
Right.
I think that this question is just for fun, just for conversation, but what the bracket says we have to do is we have to get through Houston and then play the winner of Duke and Alabama. And I think whoever wins that part of the Final Four is going to win it all.
Agreed.
So I think that's the toughest road. Really, really, really encouraging to watch what we're seeing, right? Like, this is a team that's let us down a lot in the past, like 3 to 7 years or so. With not making it, we're in back-to-back Elite Eights. If we can get things done versus Houston, who knows where it goes? Maybe we'll be cutting down some nets.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. I think obviously I know transitive property doesn't really apply, and you can't really just draw conclusions. But only data points we really have, with like Houston, using the common opponents is like that they played Alabama, they played Auburn, lost both games. So hopefully that gives us some confidence that Houston, while they're very strong teams and they can beat anybody, but are they truly tested? I question that. Like, I'm looking at their schedule, and outside of Alabama and Auburn, like, they've really played Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech. I think that's the only ranked teams they played all year. So they've done what they're supposed to do, which is like win the games they're supposed to. And I can't really shed on them because Tennessee doesn't do that. Like, we go into games where we're like double-digit favorites and we lose those games, in the SEC. So props to them. But then again, like, what the strength of schedule show and all that, I feel reasonably confident that we can at least get to our first Final Four. That'll be amazing.
All right, you heard it first. Tennessee going to the Final Four. stay up, stay lucky. Go Balls.